Hi guys, welcome to the channel. I'm John. And what we're doing today is we are not playing Lords of the Fallen. Today is bowling day. And it's not really bowling day, it's just this is Tuesday, and on Tuesdays I bowl. It's a fun thing to do to like unwind, not really think about anything other than trying to be better at a sport I'm really bad at. You drink some beer, talk to your buddies, eat some pizza, whatever, which then gets on your hands and then you drop the ball. Anyway, so it's fun. Today is a day that was a busy day at work. Oh, by the way, this is going to be a beer review. Okay. So anyway, it was a busy day. Got everything done that I needed to get done, though. It was one of those days that it's a busy day, but the things and the tasks that you have to do, you finish them, you complete them to your satisfaction. That is a huge win. Not every day that happens. Usually, what happens is somebody is cross with you, or you have to do something that you know people aren't going to like in order to solve a problem, or whatever like that. You know, it's part of the job you don't like. Well, you know, it's part of the job, right? Is there a job where you're happy from the beginning to the end, from your whole day? You're every day you're happy? I bet you those jobs exist. I bet you they do. It's not my job. It's probably not your job either. Uh, but you know, it's one of those things that I mentioned before. You know, we need to find those things in our day. We don't need to, we should. We don't need to do anything, okay? If some of this stuff doesn't affect you, I had a video about internal stress and recognizing external things that are causing that, because I'm really bad at finding out what that is. Here's a perfect example. We'll get to the beer in a second. So I have a client and a customer who would sort of ends up going on their own and doing things that they shouldn't be doing, according to us, as their IT company, putting themselves at risk, not like by jumping in front of a car or anything like that, but it's equatable to that from our point of view when you talk about computer security. Anyway, you have somebody like that who then you have a talk with them, an uncomfortable talk, and they agree that what they did was not the right thing to do, and then they do it again. Okay. So then they get snotty about stuff, and the employees at the company get snotty about stuff, and they start to ask for unreasonable things and call all the time about stupid shit and stuff that they really don't even need or whatever. Okay. All right. So you have that. So what happens? So then I go home, talk to my wife about it. Or maybe she's even there since she works for the company a bit. Maybe she knows about it. Maybe it's one of hers. Maybe it's something that she's involved in and now she's stressed out about it. How do I know? Because we talk about it. Then we go to dinner and we talk about it at dinner. Then we go home and we talk about it at home. Then we get ready for bed and we're talking about it then. I'm over at my dad's. What am I doing? I'm talking to my dad about this customer. Right? Where's the separation? Where does your job end and your time start? So that's what I've realized, and it took me far too long to realize it. I'm 51 now, and I wish I learned that shit when I was 30. When I started all this shit, you know? It would have saved me so much stress. I might actually have more hair. Anyway, guys, it's just the way it is. So today, I'm sorry to go off on that tangent like that. Fuck. It's a beer review, for God's sakes. So we have a new beer called Shadows, see, by More Brewing Company. Okay. This is a brewery that we have already, we've already featured, I guess you could say featured. We reviewed one of their beers here already, but here's another one. Haven't had it yet. 6.7%, acceptable. I'd like to see that at 7, but it's not a double. So 6.7 is perfectly fine. Okay. Keep cold, drink fresh. Okay, that's wise words. Citra, Columbus, and Simco hops. I'm a fan of Citra, as you guys know, and I'm a fan of Simco. But Columbus hops, I can't for the life of me remember what that flavor is. When I have a lot of hazies, you can pick out. You can pick out. Obviously, you can pick out the Citra. You can pick out the Mosaic. You can pick out the Amarillo. But you can pick out Cryo. Oh my gosh. You can pick out some of these things after you drink beer for a while. And you know what? It's really fun to drink beer for a while. So, okay, so those are the hops. And you know what I always say? I love to see that on the can. I love to see that. Here it is, right there. Okay. And this is called Shadows. See? Shadows, right there. Okay. West Coast style Indian Pale Ale. India Pale Ale. Not Indian. India. More Brewing Company. Huntley, Illinois. Which, by the way, they have another one. I think it's, where is it? In Schaumburg, I think. Anyway, these guys have a wonderful, wonderful brewery. Huge brewery. Huge eating area. Just a really large eating area with really awesome hardwood everything. It's like they spared no expense. It's so good. And the food is fucking awesome. And I think it's owned by these two Indian dudes. So there are Indian dishes on the menu. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think I might have even mentioned that. All right, so let's crack this one open and see what we have here. It doesn't say it's a hazy, and I don't believe it will be. It's not going to be a poser, I'll tell you that much. No, this is not hazy one bit. It's not hazy. I'll show you guys what it looks like in just 1 second. I'm going to pour it up here. And you can see it's got a little bit of a lager look to it. Clear, right? Nice. Pours nice. Smells great. Smells fantastic. That's one less beer I'm going to drink at the bowling alley. All right, we'll let that sit for a little bit. I mispoured that. Now I got a little bit of a head. I got to wait for that. So, all right. So here's an interesting thing that my wife found out quite a while ago now, meaning months. In Chicago, there is a brewery that is brewing Guinness. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and it's a thing, man. They're actually brewing it. They're not they obviously got permission to do that. So from what I hear, it's just as good as it is from Ireland, if not better. So what does that tell me? It tells me bullshit. That's what that tells me. It's it's the placebo effect. It seems like that. No, okay. It may be true, but just like anything else, when you go to a Michelin star restaurant, by the way, a Michelin star restaurant is a restaurant. Not all states do this, but It's a restaurant that has a certain rating based on how good it is, basically. So if you have a Michelin star, that means you've been rated by this committee or consortium or whatever it is. I haven't looked too far into it. And they're pretty harsh. And they take into account everything. And so if you were to go, excuse me, guys, I'm just getting over a cold. If you were to go to a Michelin star restaurant, you would have a preconceived notion about what you're going to be eating. You have this preconceived idea that what you're going to eat is going to be fantastic. So before you even bite anything, you're like, this is going to be so great. And you're skewing your actual taste of it. You're skewing your real experience. Well, how could you not? You're at a Michelin star restaurant. It only has one Michelin star, but still it's a Michelin star restaurant. You know what that takes to get one? Holy shit. An act of God. Okay, then you go to one that has 2. Then you go to one that has 3. Right? So you get this and you're like, man, this is just the best food I've ever had in my life. When it really isn't. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of the Michelin star restaurants make food that you would never eat anywhere else. You could never eat anywhere else because they would never make that. They would never make a olive in a dish that all it is one olive on a spoon. And the olive, and you're like, what the fuck is this? It's got this huge bowl like this. And then a little spoon and an olive in it. That's all. Now, some little dressing thing around the outside to make it look nice. What? It's one of the 14, 15 courses. It's a one-biter. So you're like, okay, you take that olive and you pop it in your mouth and you let it go. And you taste the flavors, and it's just the most fabulous thing ever. It's the most flavorful thing I have ever had in my life. And is it really? Well, in this case, it fucking was. But there's still part of me that's like the presentation, the wine, the way you're dressed. You're out to dinner. You're paying $200 a person for this food. You know, the chef's menu, 15 courses. This is a meal that is replicating a meal from El Bulli in Spain or whatever, or Mosimo's restaurant in Italy, whatever, right? And so you have already, you're not starting at 0. Your rating of this food, you're already starting at 3, 4, 5, or higher. There's almost no way that this thing can suck. It's hard, man. It's hard. It's got to be really fucking hard for the people who have to rate that shit. I'd like to be one of them because I get to eat it. Anyway, here it is. This is called Shadows, 6.7%. And it is not a hazy, as you guys can see. Pretty clear, kind of lagery looking. Ah, smells wonderful. Oh my God. That's so good. That has the citrus taste in the front, and then it sort of evens out in the middle and gets, I don't know if this is the right word for it, but gets really neutral, gets kind of, so here's another example of what I'm talking about. If you drink a craft beer made by a larger brewery, we have one in Chicago here, that makes called Revolution Brewing Company, and they make a hazy IPA called what's it called? Hazy Hero. Okay. I love it. I absolutely love it. We're not ever reviewing it on this channel because I drink it all the time. The point is, it's neutral. Okay. There aren't any risks being taken. You're not going to get spikes of flavor. You're not going to get any kind of spicy tones. You're not going to get things too far out of the norm. It's like when the automakers make a new car. That car sort of looks like every other fucking car on the road, right? It doesn't really have its own look because people wouldn't buy it. It just would. That was then. More or less now, they're really starting to get a little edgy with cars and stuff. So, and people are buying them. But before, what I'm saying, everything's a little more neutral, a little more, I don't know what else the word would be for it. But anyway, so that's what happens with this beer. It starts out citrusy up the wazoo, and then it gets flat. The flavor levels off immediately, and then it lasts there's no dry part. It's wet all the way through. It's like a juice. There are a lot of IPAs that are like juicy something or something juice. We had one here I think I reviewed called Launch Juice. It's very wet, like the taste. It really stayed that way, stayed cold, stayed wet. Yeah. It's totally cool, totally fine. That was what they were going for. So that's what this does. From right after that Citra spike, levels off and stays there. Boom, boom. So what does that do? Well, that means I probably won't be drinking this when I want that edginess. So, once you start drinking beer and you start drinking craft beers and you start drinking a lot of it over time, you start to just like anything else, especially if you guys watch Ralphie about his single malts. I'm saying, watch Ralphie and his single malts. You level up your palate. Your palate changes, and your palate changes as you get older. Your palate changes over time. Your palate changes what you eat. Your palate changes if you're sick or not. Your palate changes what mood you're in. It just does. Not a lot. But over time, here's a perfect example. When I started drinking beer, I couldn't stand IPAs. And then I didn't drink beer for 10 years because all we did was drink beer at college. And I didn't drink beer for 10 years. And then I first start up drinking beer, and I start drinking IPAs. And I'm like, this is actually pretty good. And then that takes off, right? So I think that's a big part of the whole enjoying your journey into beer, enjoying your journey with any quality spirit, okay? Whether it be wine, wine is huge for this. If you drink, you are like white wine. If you break it down to that level, if you guys are into wine, you don't normally call it white and red, right? You just don't. You may now and then, but you're not. You actually say what you want. You say you want a cab if you want a cab, at the very least, right? You may not say the year and the winery, but you'll say, man, I just want a cab right now. I just want a Chardonnay right now. I just want a Malbec right now. You might say something like that. You might just say, I want a white wine right now. I want a red wine right now. But I guarantee you, as you grow, you will find wines that appeal to you more and more and more. Wines that you didn't like before, that you thought were a little off-putting. And I'm not talking about where it's being where the grapes are being grown or the winery or anything like that. I'm just talking about the the categories of your wine, what the labels on your wine, right? I would never drink. I'd never drank cabs before. When I started drinking wines, it was like all I didn't really like Chardonnays, so I was going with shit. What's that German white wine called? Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. I can't think of it right now. I would drink that. That's pretty Rieslings. I would drink Rieslings pretty much all the time. Some of them are wet, some of them are brut, but it always had good flavor. Or no, I really didn't like a lot of sweet wines, so I started out liking it, and then I sort of fell off that thing. But that's what happens. So this kind of stuff is really, really exciting. When you drink these beers and you're drinking I don't know, whatever you want to drink, you can drink whatever you want. And you're like, you know what? I don't really want that one day. You're up there getting the beer, you're getting you're at the bowling alley or wherever you are. Or you're at a friend's house. You can walk over to the fridge and you open the fridge. He's got Busch Light, got Miller Light, got Bud Light. I really don't want one of those. You drink those normally, maybe. It's fine. You look over there, you see this really bizarre looking fucking can, because all of these beers, they make really cool can art, So you see this fucking cartoon character on one of the cans or something like that, and you look at it and you're like, oh, that looks cool. And then you drink it, crack it open, and you take a sip, and you're like, man, that's really bitter. No, that's not really bitter. What that is it's hoppy, and you're interpreting it as bitter, right? Generally, for IPAs anyway. So then you're like, you know what? I don't really like that part of it, but it gets really smooth right after that. Yeah, it's a nice sunny day, kind of warm. You're like, all right, man, I am in. Give me another one of those. And then you find out it's 8%. You're like, fuck. Right? So, here's a good tip from me, and take it as you will. If you're going to try a beer, okay, let's just start with that. If you're going to try this beer, did you notice what I did when I go to drink the beer the first time? I didn't smell it, did I? I might have, because I think it smells fabulous. But I don't normally do that. It's fucking beer, man. Oh, it smells so good. It's fucking beer, dude. Don't do that. Don't be weird like me. What do? This is what I do. You take a good swig. A good swig. Now, I do that mainly because I can't taste on one half of my mouth. But I actually think that is the right way to do it. Because with beer, I got to get this all over my tongue. I don't know where the taste buds are, where the other ones are, where the bitter ones are, where the sweet ones are. I don't know anything about the fucking tongue. Even though I took anatomy and physiology in pharmacy school, I have no fucking clue anymore. All I know is in order for me to taste this properly, I have to have a good swig, and that is phenomenal. I would buy that again. So, wine, I do the same thing. Not as much, not a big gulp, but a good swig. Whiskey, a decent swig, more than a sip. And then I let it stay in my mouth for a while, because whiskey's weird. Whiskey is one of those, a single malt is an odd thing. So you would take, that I learned from Ralphie, which is 100% accurate, by the way. I've experienced this. Whether it's true for everybody, no fucking clue. You pour the whiskey neat. You sit down, you're reading a book, whatever you're doing. You pick it up, you take your first swig, not a swig like fucking this. Not that, because you don't even have that fucking much whiskey in the whiskey glass. You take a little sip, not a sip, but more of a sip. Okay. Wow, that's really burning down my throat. Ah. You don't really taste much flavor in that, maybe. Maybe you do. Maybe you taste a little bit. So you put a little bit of water in it. 2 teaspoons. 2 teaspoons of water in it. Swirl it around a little bit and let it sit there. Read your book. 15 minutes later, 10 minutes later, you give it another one of those little double sip swig things. It tastes completely fucking different. I shit you not. So cool. So cool. Anyway, so you do that. What else do you have? Well, you have tequilas. What do you do with tequilas? You shoot them? You might shoot them. But there are some sipping ones. So you do the same thing with the tequila. But you wouldn't put any water in it. Maybe a little bit. Not really. It is what it is. Tequila is pretty smooth, man, when you have this sipping stuff. Don't really need that. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this beer review. I got off on a little bit of a tangent in the beginning and at the end. When don't I? This is just really good, man. This is really good. I love the color. I love this lager look. What are you drinking, John? A lager, right? Totally say that. I totally do. I totally do. My wife sits next to me. What you drinking? Old style? Okay. Really? That's gross, she says. She looks at me. I'm like, I think you'll like it. She's like, no, there's no way I'll like it. I said, all right, I'll bet you $2 you like it. I bet you $5. Okay. Puts up the money. Takes a swig of that. She goes, it's not fucking old style. That is a fabulous IPA that I'll pay up. Come on, you gotta get your laughs when you can, man. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. More brew reviews coming. See you soon.